everyone, so in today's video we're going to be talking about word equations. Now, the first thing, what are they? They're basically a precursor to balancing chemical equations, and what we're really doing is we're representing a chemical reaction by using the names of the substances involved. So this is the first step that you're basically doing before you go to balancing chemical equations. Now, in a chemical reaction, you have the things that you have before the reaction takes place, which are your reactants. They're put in a situation where a reaction occurs. Either you're mixing them together, adding heat, pressure, any of those things. And then those reactants undergo the chemical reaction that leads to products. So in a word equation, I'm using the names of the substances to show that. So basic form of all equations, whether we're talking about a word equation or later on a chemical equation, has this form, that reactants come together and produce products. So our reactants, again, is everything that you have before your chemical reaction takes place. And your products are, just like the name suggests, what is produced at the end of your chemical reaction. Now, in between your reactants and your products, you have this symbol right here, which is a yield symbol. And yield basically saying that your reactants come together and formulate your products. And it's really, really important that you use a yield symbol and not an equal sign, because equal denotes that you have the exact same thing, which you don't. What you have is the exact same elements that have been rearranged to form new compounds, but the compounds that you start with are not the compounds that you end with. The elements themselves have been rearranged to form new compounds. And what's also really important is that you have plus signs that separates if you have multiple reactants and multiple products. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple examples of a situation and write the word equation based on that. So if we look at our first example, we have the following. Potassium hydroxide reacts with sulfuric acid, producing potassium sulfate and water. So whenever you're looking at a word equation, you tend to want to highlight some keywords. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to highlight all of our chemical names. So we have potassium hydroxide. So we're going to highlight that in one color. We have sulfuric acid. We have potassium sulfate, and we have water. And you're probably asking yourselves, why are we just highlighting this? Because these four chemical names are basically the key ingredients that I need in my word equation. So that means if I highlight them in one color, it's a mental check for me to know, okay, I need to have all of these in my word equation. So the first thing we want to do is highlight our keywords. The second thing that we want to do is highlight our buzzwords. So our buzzwords are words that denote whether I'm drawing a plus sign or whether I'm drawing a yield sign. So whenever I see words like react, whenever I see the word and, or if I ever see a comma sign, all of these signify a plus. Whenever I see words like yield, produce, decompose, all of these words denote a yield sign. So what I'm going to go ahead is I'm going to reread my sentence, and again with a different color highlighter, highlight any of the buzzwords that I see. So I see the words reacts, I see the words produce, so producing, and I see the word and. So reacts, that means it's a plus sign. Producing, that means it's a yield sign, and means it's a plus sign. Now, before I go ahead and write my word equation, I need to make sure that I've indicated which are my reactants and which are my products. And again, reactants are everything that I have at the beginning of my reaction. products are everything that I have at the end of my reaction. So if I'm reading it, potassium hydroxide reacts with sulfuric acid, producing potassium sulfate and water. So that means these two things are my reactants, and these two things are my products. So now I have everything that I need to write my word equation. So my word equation is going to be potassium hydroxide plus sulfuric acid yields potassium sulfate and plus water. And there you go. You have your word equation. So we're going to do 2 more examples together. Okay, so in our next example, we have the following. Nitrogen and hydrogen react together to form ammonia. So nitrogen, hydrogen, and ammonia are my chemical names. So that means I need to make sure that those are the 3 names that I have in my word equation. If I highlight my buzzwords, I have and, I have react, oh, and I have the word form. Okay, so if I'm looking at it, I'm going to read it one more time. Nitrogen and hydrogen react to form ammonia. So ammonia is my product. Nitrogen and hydrogen are my reactants. And means I have a plus sign together, react together to form. I have a yield sign here, and then ammonia. So my word equation would be nitrogen plus hydrogen yields ammonia. All right, so we actually see in this scenario, we only have 2 reactants and 1 product. So that's why we have them separating that way. And we have all of our buzzwords showing our different symbols that we need to put in our word equation. Awesome. All right, so we have our last one here. Rust is produced when iron and oxygen react. So I have rust, I have iron, and I have oxygen. So let's read it again. Rust is produced. So here is a little bit of a warning sign. Rust is produced, so that means rust is my product. Because is produced is denote that this is my end result. So that means rust has to be on my product side. So is produced, so again, produced, buzzword for yield, but I need to remember that these 2 things are on the other side of my reaction. So I'm just going to write this down right now so I don't forget. Rust. Awesome. When iron and oxygen react. So I see the word and. So I'm highlighting it, and that denotes that I'm having a plus sign. So that means iron and oxygen come together. Iron plus oxygen. So it's only part 1 that you're highlighting your keywords and your buzzwords, but you also have to read the sentence and look for the clues. So if we're seeing rust is produced, well, rust is my product. That's why I have rust completely on the right of the yield sign, because again, if I'm looking at my basic structure, everything to the right of my yield sign are my products. Everything to the left of my yield sign are my reactants. So I hope this helps and that you have a great day.